Welcome to the Everything Networking Talk Show, sharing real-world networking experiences, the do's and the don'ts, in order to help you grow. With your hosts, Eric Stanley and Mitchell Fromm.
Hey, this is Eric Stanley. You are listening to Everything Networking. Glad to have you listening on this 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon on Central Standard Time. I guess, are we Daylight Savings Time or Standard Time? I don't know. Have we fallen back yet? But I'm glad to have you here. It's going to be me flying solo for a little bit. The co-host, Mitchell Fromm, will not be joining us until later if he can. He's busy right now, so it's my turn to fly solo, but we've got a great guest, and I want to get to that in a little bit. I want to break you down on a little bit of what we're doing on in Houston, so let me get to that real quick. We are, November 4th, we're going to be having the My Referral Network, your B12 shot to maximize all your networking memberships. It's from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. My Referral Network in Houston, if you haven't figured it out already, is kind of like a symbiotic sister relationship. We're sister organizations. They, promote us to all of their members at all of their events, all over the Houston area, Austin, Dallas, and now outside of the state of Texas. And so we're glad to, in kind, return that favor by promoting this event. Besides, it's how to maximize all your networking memberships, which Mitchell and James, the kind of founders of, two of the founders. There's a third one. He's kind of hidden. His name's Paul. But Mitchell and James are going to go through 12 different things you can do to maximize what you're doing in your networking. It's getting a networking plan and some specific things you can do right and wrong and in between. And he goes through his name tag Nazi guy and, all that kind of stuff. So there's a great event to show up at. You have to register ahead of time, so today would be a good time to sign up for that. It's tomorrow. So if you want to go and you have time to go, it's 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Norris Conference Centers and City Center. The 7th of November, we're going to have our Kingwood in Houston mixer. Mr. James Donasso is leading that for us, and he has said he'll be there, and we're glad to have him running that for us. If you know anybody in the Kingwood, Houston area, go ahead and tell them about that. Again, everything I'm reading to you right now is off of the inhouston.com, THEINHOUSTON.com, and you can find all of the featured events right there on the front page. But the In Houston Young Professional Networking event, we've been trying to get these going a long time, and a great guy has been putting those up there for me. His name's Will Cott. And Will has been doing a great job of instigating the young professionals in Houston. And they're getting together at Cedar Creek Cafe Bar and Grill. To be honest, I don't know where that is, but it's on the event on the website. It's on November 8th from 5:30 until 8 p.m. And I highly recommend that if you're in that area and you're a young professional. And then, of course, you don't want to miss our Uptown Park Open Business Mixer. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's the one that started it all, and usually it has anywhere from 200, 300, or 400 business professionals there, from the deal makers and the deal shakers, the business line, frontline professionals, the business development, all the way on through to the business owners, the chairman, the CEO, the investors. They're all there. They come to the tasting room in Uptown Park, and it is a great place to meet a lot of people with one drive. So if you're not in the Uptown Park normally, but you could get in that area and show up anytime between 2 and 8, come when you want to, leave when you have to, bring a lot of business cards. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. I know a lot of people who've shown up at that event and not had enough cards. So bring all your friends, man. I'm telling you, this is a good time. There's no exclusive this, that, and the other thing. Anybody is invited. who wants to come out and network, because we realize that it's not the people we're talking to right now that are going to sign up and buy our products and services, but it's the people that they can refer us to, right? So that's one of the keys of the right way to networking that we talk about here on Everything Networking. And anyway, you want to see the rest of these events, we've got the meet and greet at the Second Baptist Church coming up on the 11th. We got on the 22nd a Clear Lake Mixer. The Woodlands Mixer is on the 28th. And we're back to our Women's Premier Networking Mixer on the 7th of December. Wow, already going into December. So there you are, folks. Those are the events that are going on in Houston, and we're glad to have everybody listening in. Anybody who wants to call in with a question, either for me or for our guest later on, just go ahead and dial in to 917-889-7327, 917-889-7327, and you can raise your hand. That tells you to press 1, I believe, to ask to speak. If I see you there, I will pick on you and see if you have a question for our guest. You're welcome to just call in and listen on that as well if you can't be in front of a computer. But we're glad to have you guys here, and so I want to transition into introduction for our guest. I want her to tell her story, but I definitely want to tell you that she has given us a lot of time out of her day to help us with the In Houston Job Fair, and so she's been spending a lot of her own time, volunteer time, on that project, and we're really glad to have that and to have her there with us. And she, her name is Kameka Smith, right?
Kameka Smith-McClarthy, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. So how do you say your last name again?
McClarty.
McClarty, okay,
yeah.
Very good. And I met your husband, and I still didn't remember that. We played pool at the Houston Club one time.
Correct.
But
yeah.
We're glad to have you on, and I just want you to kind of come out and tell people, a little bit about yourself, and where'd you grow up? Well, where'd you go to college? Are you married? Well, we kind of covered that, but you can cover that a little bit more. And do you have any kids? Are you going to have any kids? Stuff about you, not so much about your business, but just kind of tell us a little about who you are so our listeners can get to know you.
Sure, definitely, and thanks for having me. So,
yeah, thank you.
As Eric said, my name is Kameka Smith-McClarty. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, actually, and grew up there, which some people find interesting for some reason. I'm not sure why. But so I went to college at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, where I studied information science and systems. Then I moved here to Houston, working with Hewlett-Packard as well as Eric mentioned, Eclectic-Villa. And then outside of that, I've been involved in a lot of activities like in Houston, or we have a young employee network at work where we volunteer to host different events and to do community service and just to be a resource group for people. Outside, I am married, no kids just yet. We're planning on having kids, but a little bit later. And definitely. Now I'm also still in grad school studying technology management with Texas A&M, and that's about it.
Okay, very cool. So, we're talking about today about networking, and what our listeners are calling in to hear about is about everything networking. So, when people get introduced to the idea of networking, maybe it's through a college course, maybe it's through a college professor, maybe it's a mother, a father, an uncle that was a business owner. There's that person that kind of introduces you to the idea that you need to network, or that networking is a good thing to do. But not everybody tells you how to do it the right way. So, everybody has a story about their oops, I wasn't good at networking kind of thing, and what I thought about networking was all those people were kind of trying to sell me their product, or they had different opinions about networking, and so we kind of want to get to know you about the idea of networking. How did you first get into networking? Who introduced you to it? When was it in your life? Was it in college? Was it before college? Was it after college? Those kind of things. And then, was there somebody in your life that you feel was instrumental in not only getting you involved in it, but maybe a separate person or that same person who helped you learn how to do it the right way. And we'll get into more about what the right way means, but just, in your opinion, how did all that take shape in your life?
Sure. So real networking for me began in college. I was involved with Association of IT Professionals, the student chapter at Morgan State University, of which I was the president for 2 years. And with that, we were involved at a national level as well. And for me, networking really started when we started going to the professional chapter events in Baltimore, and we figured, okay, this is no longer we're being students, we're networking with people who are actually in their careers. So we had to learn what they were doing and how to really network, not necessarily go and sell ourselves to them to say, okay, we're students graduating and we're looking for a job, but really to get to understand exactly what they're doing and what are the opportunities out there, different ways we could spend an information systems degree. And so for that, there was the president at the time, that was Mr. Ed Rippon at the Baltimore chapter, and he was very instrumental for me because he was a good guide in terms of helping me to understand exactly, the ins and outs of networking and working and trying to understand, trying to learn from people as opposed to sell yourself. That was my main focus.
Very cool. So, and again, who was that person?
Ed Rippon.
I mean, who was he to you? Your professor?
He was the president at the time of the Baltimore professional chapter of AITP.
Okay, and AITP stands for?
Association of IT Professionals.
Okay. I'm sure, I know what it was, but I'm sure there's people listening going, I don't know what it is. So it's always good to break down those acronyms. I know I'm a geek too, so it's hard to even in the military we use acronyms all the time. But that's really cool. So that person kind of took you under his wing. Now, did you find yourself like going into networking at first, like going, I don't want to be here. I'm not really sure what this is good for, or this is for people who want to sell things, and I'm not really here for that. Or did you have a kind of a initial negative response or opinion of what that was going to be like?
I can admit that I was a skeptic at first, at going into an unfamiliar territory and not being sure what to say, what to expect, what to do. Yes, I was a skeptic.
Very cool. And so, go into a little bit more for our listeners. What was that like for you? What did that cause you to do when you went into the room? How did that affect the way you looked at the people in the room? Just give us a little bit more kind of insight into what that made you feel like.
Initially, prior to learning how to network?
Yeah.
Okay. So, initially, I think what I used to do, when I get to the sign-in, the first set of people I'll wait for people to approach me from the first place. I wouldn't try to initiate a conversation with somebody. And I'll end up staying in a familiar environment where I'm only talking to the people who have approached me. And then I felt like I was very reserved, very shy, not wanting to put myself out there.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, okay, I'll have to sell myself to somebody.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's very important. It's good for our listeners to hear that, because I think part of the reason why we do have so many listeners on the show who call in and ask questions and who have listening live right now and chatting in the chat room, the reason we have those, because they want to hear, hey, am I alone? Am I the only one who feels like this is the way it is at networking events? Or they're like, wow, there's got to be a better way to network, because that's all they see, and they don't know that there's a different way to network. And so part of what we want to show on Everything Networking is, first we want to get to know you like we did, and we got to know about you, where you went to school, and all and where you were born, and that you're married, and all those kind of things, so that we get to know you. Because part of networking, it's a very important part of networking, is to learn to get to know people, so that together you can decide whether or not you like each other, because it's all about relationships, right? And once you've gotten to like each other, then you can build that kind of trust relationship that, then generates revenue or referrals, or, maybe you're just helping them. And we have that, we'll have that conversation in a little bit as well. But, there's that process of getting to the right way to network. And so when you see yourself transitioning from the wrong way to network to the right way to network, who was that shining light? I mean, and how did that person shine that light for you? How did they make it clear that, you know, there's a different way to network, and it's not as bad as you think it is?
So what he really did, initially what he did, he took me around to introduce me to a few people, and then I started observing how he spoke to them. But the other thing he did was he really broke it down and explained to me that, okay, you really don't need to think about necessarily really approaching somebody to talk about a business or a company, or even if it's something they're doing that you don't know about. I mean, the objective is to learn from each other. And so, you know, he'll just give me a few tips in terms of, okay, if you just want to just go up and introduce yourself and try to figure out, okay, how are they doing? If there's a specific question, if you know something about them, let's say a specific career path or a company that they're working with, try to find out their experience, you know. And there's also the other part of keeping it, being a little bit personal, figure out what they're having a family, what is it that they like to do professionally, if they volunteer, or other things like that. So that is exactly how I started to approach it until it became easier.
But and usually this is like an onion. You start to peel back that first layer, and you go, okay, that was different. So now I'm comfortable now. I can, you know, talk to people and make friends, and really that's all we're doing here is making friends at this event. And that's your first kind of layer of the onion that you're peeling back, and then usually there's a process where you get more and more comfortable and you realize that there are different levels of this kind of networking. Not that it's some spooky kind of weird thing or mystic or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know, as you get better, you realize that certain people in certain organizations just automatically network at a much higher level than, you know, say somebody who's new to networking. Have you had that experience where you've gone from, say, you know, even a in Houston open mixer to, you know, maybe say something at an exclusive club where there was a difference in the networking? Could you see a difference in those two kind of networking?
Yes, I could definitely see a difference, but I guess there are different types of networking events. I mean, of course, in Houston, there's always the, I guess, pay it forward that you talk about. In Houston, I find that it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more approachable for people to interact. Other networking events I've been to, some I've met with the business card first, and that makes it a little bit weird in terms of figuring, okay, where do we go from here? Because it's just, you know, initially talking about your business and what you do. And others are a little bit more personable, where it's just really being social. So.
And describe that for us. So, what were the different places that were different? So you were talking about the more personable places. Were those, you know, exclusive clubs, or were those, you know, a different group? You know, maybe the project manager, you know, organization, or where were those places?
Well, and so I'm involved in event planning, and so I tend to find that in mostly the event professionals. Really, it tends to be a bit more social. And for my project management type or IT type organizations, it is mostly not necessarily met with the business cards first, but is mostly geared at, okay, what do you do for work? What company do you work with? What are your skills? What can you do?
Less comfortable, more just kind of in a box, kind of networking, kind of.
Correct.
You know, I'm a recovering geek too. I tell people this all the time, so I know what I'm pulling out of you in this case, because I did it the same way. In fact, usually, probably at those events, you've got food or something, and they're all congregating around the food and stuffing their faces while they talk to you, admittedly forcibly, about what you do. Unless you get into a subject about, you know, PHP, persistent memory management, or something like that, and then all of a sudden, whoa, now they're passionate about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to find that right buzzword to get them going.
I read a book by a guy named Keith Pressey, and since then I've met him, and he's a really neat guy. His book is Never Eat Alone, and his other books are great too, but that one really took me as a geek from being a geek to and not knowing how to network to learning how to do it the right way. I think he introduced me to the whole world that was out there in networking. And really, when you get down to it, lack of networking is more abnormal than networking. But you don't know that if you've never been around it, Yeah. And he introduced me to that whole idea in that book, and it helped me to recover from being that geek that I was. And is there a book like that for you, or do you find resources that you're using that are helping you get better at networking or business in general?
So there's a book that I've been reading called Never Eat Alone. I don't exactly remember the author's name right now. But
that's it.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've been using, because I find that of course, being a current pseudo-geek, I find myself eating lunch at my desk a lot. And so I'm trying to break out of that habit, try to get to know somebody else, to know a colleague, and so try to push myself to find somebody to have lunch with as opposed to just run into the cafeteria, pick up something, and just come to my desk and eat.
That's a good point, yeah. And that's the book I was talking about, exactly. So, it took me from, hiding behind my computer and trying to network on LinkedIn alone to actually meeting the people that I was meeting on LinkedIn in person, which then ended up turning it into what we know is in Houston today, which is 20,000 member organization plus, and that growth process for me was how in Houston was birthed, and so I know exactly where you are. I didn't like to eat with anybody for lunch. It was a pain in the butt, waste of time.
Especially when you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and you think, oh gosh, if I could just focus on this last bit of code, I'd be good. I'll finish it,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So we've talked about those important things, and the next thing we want to cover right after the break, we're going to take a commercial break here real soon, but what we want to cover next is this idea that we talk about, and you covered a little bit of the pay it forward idea, but we like to call it servant leadership networking or give first networking. And this idea of, the idea is that you don't go to a networking event to vomit all over the person in front of you and tell them what you do and how you've got widgets that are red, white, and blue, and that if they buy 5 today, they'll get 3 free. You don't do that, right? And the right way to network is actually to give to the person in front of you by asking them how you can help them. And then if you can, in the room there with you, introduce them to, somebody there. And so the idea is to actually make a concerted effort to make an impact in the life of the person that you're talking to, and really dig into how you can help that person. And so we want to cover how you, Kameka, how you got into that idea, how you got introduced to that idea, why it was different from what you'd known before, and your kind of story around that and how that's been different for you. So we're going to do that right after this break. Remember, go to facebook.com/everything networking. Please like us. Please share us with all your friends there. We're also at blogtalkradio.com/everything networking. You can listen to all of our past shows there or on iTunes. If you just search in iTunes for Everything Networking, all of our past shows are up there as well. And I did check that today, so that is working. And we are glad to have you here. We're going to be right back after a couple of commercial breaks.
Are you ready to see your business grow? Do you know the awesome power in a referral? Have you heard that networking can lead to increased sales revenues? In a recent CNN Money article on networking, it was stated by Keith Ferrazzi, author and networking expert, that above all, do whatever you can to help others succeed. It will come back to you. Generosity is the key to success. Joining a networking organization is vital to the success of your business. My Referral Network is your solution. My Referral Network teaches you how to be an effective networker. My Referral Network helps you grow your business through highly effective warm referrals. My Referral Network has partnered with sales, marketing, and networking experts such as James Dutton for the guaranteed growth and success of the organization and its members. My Referral Network is your referral network. Building your business with endless warm referrals. www.myreferralnetwork.net.
Remember, if you want to ask a question, go to 917-889-7327. Call 917-889-7327 to dial in and press 1 to raise your hand if you have a question. In today's economy, business bankers are having to turn down their best clients for many reasons. Their growth is too fast for a bank to understand, or they're too new, or they're in the wrong industry. We help business bankers maintain a positive relationship with these clients, and we help that company get the funding they need, and we fund into their account at that bank. For over 21 years, we've helped thousands of companies with billions of dollars in capital to grow and prosper. AmericanPrudentialCapital.com. You're listening to Everything Networking. We'll be right back after this break. And remember, you can be a sponsor on this show as well. Just go to Everything Networking on Facebook or Blog Talk Radio and let us know if you'd like to be a sponsor on our show. Alrighty, we're back. We're back with Everything Networking, and we have our guest, Kameka Smith-McClarthy, and she is on the phone with us, and she's been telling us about her and her adventures in networking and what she's been learning so far, and we're glad to have her on the show. Before the break, we actually asked a question about servant leadership networking and Give First networking, the idea that we kind of teach it in Houston and My Referral Network, and we'd love to dig into your opinions about that, Kameka. Have you dug into the idea of servant leadership networking or Give First networking?
So yes, and that's something I'm currently working on. So I have to be honest, I was introduced to it in Houston.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So typically my networking, and that's a little bit weird because I was looking of all the networking events that I've been to, I've been looking for something different. It becomes somewhat weird, and again, like I said, with the whole geek perspective, really, it becomes really hardcore professional and talking about coding and different specific methodologies, where I was looking for something a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more different, getting to know each other, and what's important to them. So my first in Houston event was the one at the northwest side, the Trio restaurant where I first met Rollis.
Yeah,
and
cool.
So, I'm sorry?
I just thought that was very cool. That's all.
Yeah. So I went there, and when I got in, everyone seems very friendly, very approachable. I had no issues approaching to speak to someone, and it came where I could ask some questions about what are you doing, what is there to do in Houston? I mean, I've only lived in Houston for 3 years, and I haven't learned it just yet. And so I was more curious about that sort of thing. And then, of course, I'm definitely interested in knowing what they're doing for their careers, but I also want to get to know them personally. And
right.
Yes, and definitely, I mean, if there are opportunities for me to help with something, or if there's something I might know about that could benefit them, I'm definitely open to doing that.
So for the listeners, how did you find out about that event at the Trio? How were you first introduced to that event?
So I think one day I was on my email and something came in, and I went to their page and I saw something about in Houston, and then I went to the in Houston page and I saw the mixer and saw that it was right here close to me.
Very
and cool. The day I had another event at 6, and I figured, okay, let me still stop by at 5 because it's right across the street, and I've been attending in Houston events ever since.
Very cool, very cool. And in Houston isn't the only thing as far as networking, but we love that you're coming to our events, and thank you very much for telling everybody about that. But have you been involved in chamber events or any kind of exclusive networking? Usually people think of like a BNI or the My Referral networks out there. Yeah,
I've been to the Northwest Chamber of Commerce events.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that was actually after attending. A few weeks later, I heard about it after that first event. But yes, for that too, I mean, it's definitely, I've changed my approach, or I'm learning to change my approach, where it's really, and for that one too, there's a lady that actually told me that, well, yeah, we want to get to know, you as a person, to build that trust, to figure out, I mean, we could talk about your business later, but what are you interested in? What do you do? So I found that a bit refreshing. So
very cool. Yeah, so that's an important key that Mitchell usually talks about on the show, and that is that, and he calls it the CEOs of networking, the chambers, the exclusive groups, and the open groups. And you want to definitely have a plan to take advantage of all of those, and that's important as well. So I guess we're at that point where we can actually talk about who you are as far as a business, and this is going to be interesting because you mentioned HP, but that's not all you do. We haven't really heard about everything else you do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about both sides of that?
Okay. So I tell people on the first side, I'm an engineering project manager at HP working on a project called Blade System or Cloud System Matrix. It's an IT solution that a lot of companies try to implement. It's just somewhat a one-stop shop for all of your servers, switches, storage, networking, everything built into one system, which makes it a lot easier for you to expand and to implement, and to really make it a lot more scalable for you, where you don't have to worry about going from one vendor to the next to get different components to complete the system. So
and you're the engineering side of that, or you're in the
on the engineering side, R&D.
Oh, wow. It's R&D, so you're in Skunkworks.
Somewhat like that, yes.
Okay. Well, so I used to do security over at what was then Compact, and I can't remember which administration building, but it was the middle one. There was a 2 or 3 story Skunkworks off the back side of it, front side of it, whatever you want to call it.
With the M7 where the factory was?
Well, it wasn't on the manufacturing side. It was actually on the administrative side. There was this square thing sticking off of it. It was a big, tall building, and we called it the Skunk Works because we didn't know what else to call it. But
okay.
Is that where you guys are? Or are you guys in a separate, building somewhere else? Or can you tell me about that?
So I'm in the former manufacturing building, which is right next to the administrative building. It's in the same area.
Okay.
So it probably is. I'm not sure what the Skunk Works was. It probably is the same building, but it was a manufacturing building that they've changed into offices.
Oh, okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay,
yeah.
That's very cool. So you're doing that. You're in R&D, so you're putting the pieces together and seeing if they work.
I'm managing the projects that actually were the different teams put together these different pieces. So interesting with Cloud System Matrix that we depend on a lot of other subcomponents. And so, we have other projects where the networking guys do their piece and the Virtual Connect guys do their piece, the server guys, the blades, and then we talk about Proliant versus integrity. And so there are all those different pieces that we have to coordinate and collaborate and make sure that we drive our schedules to completion to make sure if there's a customer issue or issues that we need to fix, yes. So it's driving all those different pieces.
So you're more in the project management side on that?
Yes. Yes.
So you got to manage all the geeks that are actually doing all that, and you have to understand what they're talking about.
Yeah. Right. Occasionally I'll get into the lab, but I try to stay away. They usually put me to work.
Okay, so that's one side of you, and so there's another side of you, kind of like Jekyll and Hyde or something like that. In the middle of the night, you turn into this big hairy monster. No.
Yeah, it's funny that. Yes, the other day I did a presentation, and this lady told me that I was ADD, but in a good way. So the other side, I started a company in January called Eclectic Villa. And for that company, it's an event planning and coordination company. And my reason for starting that is that it's something I've always liked doing. I've always liked hosting and planning events, and it's something I've been really good at. And so my final decision was planning my own wedding. My husband and I were looking for specific features that we wanted to incorporate, and every time we searched for an event planner, they were telling us things that they see that we should include that was traditional. Anybody who's met my husband would actually understand that he really thinks outside the box. He was thinking about having a horse and dressing as Zorro and riding the horse around and jumping over while I was getting dressed.
I like
that. He has some ideas. It's interesting. So one of the main criteria that we had for the location was to find a place that we could land a helicopter with considering the FAA regulations that we have here in Houston. And the other flip side to that was a place that had a good big-sized dance floor that we could actually do the tango. And it was difficult to find it. Yes.
Like with the rose and all of that, right?
Yeah, the Argentine tango, yes.
Wow.
We didn't actually do the rose, but yes, we did do the tango. So we were not able to find anybody who was able to deliver on that. I mean, as opposed to we were being sold on other venues. And I'm like, okay, so does it fit these two criteria? No. Okay, we still have a problem because this is what is important to me. I mean, we didn't care about tossing the bouquet and all that other stuff. We wanted to make sure that we had that. And so we decided to go ahead and, plan it ourselves. And that, for me, that really drove me to really establish my own business and to help other brides who are probably facing the same problem, or not only brides, because, there are corporate events and other things like that I do, parties that I do as well, where you're not, it's definitely okay for me to give my input as an event planner to say, okay, well, maybe you could try this option, that, but ultimately you want the event to be about you. You want it to reflect your personality and what you want the event to be. And so that was my driving factor.
So, okay, so I gotta ask this.
Sure.
What's the bottom line on that? You don't do it for free, so there's obviously a cost, and that's great. And obviously businesses wouldn't make any money if they didn't charge for what they did. How do you do that? Is that on an hourly basis, a project basis? And then the other question I have before I forget it is, my mother is probably more likely to do what you did and plan her own event. Why would somebody like that, like you, because that's what you did, why would somebody like that choose to say, you know what, let's just let Kameka do it?
So to answer the first part of your question, it could go both ways. Hourly or project, it totally depends on the event. If it's something it's probably like a mixer or workshop, I'll probably do hourly. If it's like a wedding, then I'll probably forecast, okay, what, based on your requirements and what you're looking for, we could do a package version where the package is all inclusive, or is it a la carte? So it could go both ways. So
and you obviously have an hourly rate, and you're also trying to fit in all the other costs. Are you an all-inclusive cost for most of that, where they're paying you one check and that covers the venue and the catering and everything? So
typically, my cost doesn't cover the venues. What I do, though, is I do budget management. So we'll work out a budget for the client to say exactly each of the pieces, whether it's venue, if you're doing flowers, if you're doing dresses, catering. We'll work out a budget for that. And if the customer wants me to manage the budget and pay for it that way, I'm open to do that. But typically, I keep that separate from my service charges.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so, give us a couple examples of different size, events that you've done and what that looked like for the client.
Yeah. So before I get to that question, though, I'm going to answer your other question about event planning. So I know there are a lot of people out there who like to plan events themselves. I've seen a lot, and some are great at it and some aren't. But I think my point to them would be, okay, if I plan your event for you, then I'm taking away the stress of you having to do all these things yourself. Two, a lot of people don't have as much time anymore to do all the things that you need. And three, I'm customizing it to fit your needs. So you tell me exactly what event you're looking to have, and I might have ideas and resources and access to discounts and other things that you might not even know about, because in the network of the professional event planners, there are vendors that reach out to us. I got an email yesterday. There's a photographer trying to offer my brides, a complimentary photo shoot to build their portfolio or if they're redoing their portfolio. So sometimes we get a lot of perks and things that we could offer to our clients that you wouldn't know about if you're planning it yourself, and you get the full price that you'll have to pay.
Gotcha.
So
go ahead.
Regarding the type of events, it varies to me. I could do a small dinner of 6 people. I could do an event of 1,000, 2,000 people. It ranges. I've done campaign management for a client now. Election is November 8th, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I've done mixers of like 70 people, and I do a yearly potluck. This year we're expecting a little over 100. There's a wedding coming up that should be about 200 people. So it varies. I mean, I'm flexible with the size of the events.
Right. Okay. And you know, I mean, give us a ballpark for, like, say, the 70-person mixer. What's that going to cost somebody?
So for a 70-person mixer, if it's all inclusive, that's probably going to be about $800.
Okay. And so, how do you find that person that wants that? And then, you know, where are you finding those clients? And then, and how do they find you too? I guess. And then, you know, talk about that whole process.
So it's people finding me or clients finding me has been a variety. It's been through referrals, through networking with people, and through word of mouth. Also through social media tools like Facebook or LinkedIn or my website. Those have been the main drivers for my clients.
Okay. And then you're obviously at for instance, the mixer. You're at the event, managing the whole thing the whole night, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's good. Do you have anything else that you want to share about what you're doing right now?
Sure. So I'm definitely for Eclectic Villa, I consider my theme to be your imagination is just the beginning, and I really live like that. For what gets me excited is somebody who is really interested in stepping outside the box, trying to do something different. If it's an event that let's say it's a theme event, so you wanted to keep it as close to authentic as possible, we'll still do that. So you wanted a Hawaiian luau or something, we still get the luau dancers to come out and dance, but we still try to make it personable to what your look and feel is and what your personality. And so my other focus is to also make sure that there's an activity involved. So a lot of times people find events and there's nothing to do. You're just there walking around. There's no entertainment, nothing to do. It's just mingling. And at some point, I mean, that's definitely necessary, but I like to mix it up where you have something to look for. It's an activity, something to get you interacting with other guests.
Well, very cool, and that kind of segues us perfectly into the end of the show, which is where we kind of like to get your ideas for the right way to network, the wrong way to network, the do's and don'ts, the tips and tricks, so to speak. And so, if you want me to, I've got one, but I'll be glad to let you start first if you wanted to have, a do, a don't, a tip, a trick, or if you want me to go ahead and go first, you just let me know.
So there's one thing that agitates me a bit. Is not starting with a firm handshake. Sometimes I shake hands and it feels like the person's being scornful.
That's a good point. So guys, are you listening? The ladies want a firm handshake.
Well, not just the guys, the ladies too.
Yeah, well, that's important too. Yeah, I mean, and that's something we've talked about before, where I've had, ladies who give me a firm handshake, just like a guy, no big difference, and then I've had the lady who grabs my hand halfway through and kind of, it feels weird. You're like, whoa, that wasn't quite a handshake. How did that work?
Yeah.
So you're talking about that kind of, or are you talking about the lady who gives you the limp, or the person, could be a guy or a girl, who gives you that limp handshake? It feels like a wet noodle, or, can you give us some more details about that?
So there's a limp handshake, and there's the one that's not really a handshake, where it gets kind of awkward, where it's you end up grabbing on the person's finger. It's not like really shaking their hands. Yeah, so it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, or like when they're side by side with you and they're giving you their left hand and you're shaking that with your right hand, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like holding hands, not shaking hands.
Exactly. Definitely.
Yeah, no, shaking hands, first impressions, Mitchell talks about this all the time, where, when you walk in the room, you want to already be in the room before you get in the room. You don't want to be going on your phone and checking in and, huffing and puffing about the last thing you were doing or still talking to somebody on the phone, because the people in the room are seeing you as you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Whether or not you realize that, they're looking at you. So that's the first impression. That handshake is another first impression. Mitchell always talks about putting your name tag on the right-hand side, because it doesn't matter if that person's left-handed or right-handed. When you go to shake hands, you're going with your right hand, and they're going with their right hand. And so your right shoulder is going to face them, and it just makes it easier for them to see your name when they look at your face.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. On mine, I've been playing around with a lot of different things online, and I want to tell you, on managing networking more than anything, I've been looking at a new website, and I'd love everybody to try it out and tell me what they think. It's called Trello.com, and actually, Kameka, for project management, it might be something you want to take a look at. I'm actually using it to manage lists of things that I do, from acquisitions and funding to just different things, so I don't forget what I'm doing. And it's a really interesting tool. One of the things I use it for in networking is, after an event, I go in and make sure I add the things that I said I was going to do, the promises I made, like in a one-on-one, when I'm sitting there and say, I'm going to introduce you to Kameka and, Christine and Mitchell from. If I don't follow up on those promises, I'm a fool, right? Which is one of my don'ts, definitely. If you say you're going to introduce me to somebody, introduce me to that person. If it's okay that I can bug you about it, but I want that introduction.
Yeah.
The same thing's probably true with everybody that I say that to, and I'm not perfect at this in any way whatsoever. But one of the ways I'm learning to keep track of that is using these lists on they call them boards. They have these boards that you put lists on, that you put items on, and they can be different kinds of items, and you drag and drop them and move them around. And I don't know, it's a great way to keep track of whether or not I've done something. If I have a follow up that I need to do for somebody, I'll create them a whole new board and make sure I track their stuff and where it went. And if it's still being done in the doing stage, or if it's done, and maybe I've got some other stages in between. But I like that tool. So I'd like to give a technology tip there. But Kameka, we've got a little bit time left on the show. So if you've got any other tips or anything like that, or you'd like to talk about anything else in networking, just let me know.
So the only other thing that, and I guess it kind of piggybacks on your Trello idea of putting your action items there. Usually what I do when I of course, write my notes on the back of each person's business card, but what I do, I maintain a spreadsheet, a database with all of those contacts and all the things that I need to do as soon as I get home, and where I've met them and where. So next time somebody calls me about it, I'm like, okay, we met at that event, but I don't remember who you were. I could easily reference it that way. I'll search for their name, pull them up, and, oh, yeah, we talked about so-and-so, and we needed to connect for whatever reason it was. So that's something that becomes really useful for me.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far down in the road, I want to make sure everybody knows how to follow you on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or anything like that, and how to get to your websites and whatever contact information you want to give out. So do you have that available?
Sure. So my website is www.eclecticvilla.com, which is ECLECTIC Villa.com. And you can also find me on Facebook. It's the short name is Eclectic Villa LLC if you're going by the URL. Or you could search for me as well on Facebook as Kameka Smith-McClarty. And if you're having difficulty finding any one of those, you could just go to KamekaSmith.com, and there are links to everything there.
Okay, very cool. So you still have KamekaSmith.com.
Yeah.
Your husband's okay with that?
So I had it before I got married. So
right.
I've been meaning to get the Kameka Smith-McClarty and route the domain to forward to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, does your husband want like courses and stuff on it? Is he picky about that?
A little. Okay.
Well, we really appreciate having you on the show. It's been great to hear your perspective, and really appreciate you being our guest on the show today.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, very cool. Well, we're glad to have had Kameka on the show today, and we're really glad that you are listening in. So if you haven't, go ahead and go to facebook.com/everythingnetworking or blogtalkradio.com/everythingnetworking. The Twitter is a little bit weird. It's Everything Network. It's kind of because you can't go that long. So I think it's EV Network is what it ends up being. But if you just go to facebook.com/everythingnetworking, we'll post that up there as well. Make sure I get the right address for our Twitter. But my name is Eric Stanley. You can find all my information, what I do, and everything that I'm doing right now on social media at just.com/Eric Stanley. All of my follow links are there. And then if you want to, you can go to ericstanley.com and find out more about me there as well. But I am a principal in a funding company called American Venture Capital. We're funding B2B companies right now. And we're glad that you're listening. So, share this episode with your friends. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Go to facebook.com/everythingnetworking and let us know there. Or you can message us on blogtalkradio.com/everythingnetworking. This has been another episode of Everything Networking.
Are you ready to see your business grow? Do you know the awesome power in a referral? Have you heard that networking can lead to increased sales revenues? In a recent CNN Money article on networking, it was stated by Keith Ferrazzi, author and networking expert, that above all, do whatever you can to help others succeed. It will come back to you. Generosity is the key to success. Joining a networking organization is vital to the success of your business. My Referral Network is your solution. My Referral Network teaches you how to be an effective networker. My Referral Network helps you grow your business through highly effective warm referrals. My Referral Network has partnered with sales, marketing, and networking experts such as James Dutton for the guaranteed growth and success of the organization and its members. My Referral Network is your referral network. Building your business with endless warm referrals. www.myreferralnetwork.net.
In today's economy, business bankers are having to turn down their best clients for many reasons. Their growth is too fast for a bank to understand, or they're too new, or they're in the wrong industry. We help business bankers maintain a positive relationship with these clients, and we help that company get the funding they need, and we fund into their account at that bank. For over 21 years, we've helped thousands of companies with billions of dollars in capital to grow and prosper. AmericanPrudentialCapital.com.
Welcome to the Everything Networking Talk Show.